California. Hey, Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, you guys are doing great. I'm doing just fine.
Cool.
All things considering.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. So I want to talk about, so I am an atheist, very science oriented, and I also attend insight meditation groups, which are Buddhist in the Theravada Buddhist tradition. And I also attend other meditation groups. And I'm wondering how much I should challenge woo or just kind of let things slide in these groups. Because there are things that come up that was like, well, this. I feel like there's people being led astray on some things, sometimes, and like, I generally don't challenge things.
Can you give an example of something that's come up?
Yeah, well, a common one is there's a study that was done where they got groups of meditators together, and they claimed that they, if they chanted, I think it was TM meditation, and they chanted in this group for months that they would reduce crime. And there's like one published study on it, and they always kind of like go to that. But there's also other things. I guess that's something it kind of gets because it's referring to actual like study, so it's kind of closer to my heart. But there's things like Reiki healing, some past life stuff.
Oh yeah, living in Austin, I'll tell you, you see these kinds of stores and places all over town of just the Reiki healing stuff and just like stuff that's just, from our perspective is like total BS, right? But like there's people who have employment there, there's people who go there every week because they get something out of it, and it's hard. It's hard to figure out, okay, when is it appropriate to maybe have a conversation about this kind of stuff? And, when is it good to leave it alone? And I think I've never found a great answer for this. I think it's always going to be contextual. But, if I can at least recognize that belief is going to bring active harm to somebody's life, I think that's definitely a time to step in, and I think on some level, like all bad beliefs bring harms, but there's definitely a perspective, like a spectrum, right? So it's like, if you believe like, God is talking to you today and he wants you to kill your son, I'm going to stop you. Like, I'm going to try to do something. But if it's just like, I get a tarot card reading once a month and it kind of helps me figure stuff out. It's like, that's still dangerous, but it's not like the worst thing, So I don't know. What do you think about this, Erica?
Through the example, the study and things like that. And I think if one thing has been shown to us, at least in kind of basal psychology, it's that the quote unquote power of positive thinking, or like a placebo, really can do some good in some cases. Of course, you have to be careful about what placebo you're using and kind of what you're putting your what you're putting your trust in. But I think a little bit of positive thought here and there, like if a bunch of people want to get around and get together and like sit in a circle and chant to bring crime down, I don't think it's going to make crime worse. But we're social animals and we get a lot out of solidarity with one another. So even if, and this is a big if, I guess, but even if it is not bringing crime down, or whether it is or it isn't, I'm sure those individuals who are sharing that with one another are at least getting something out of it. I think Dan's absolutely right. You can take this to a level where it becomes very harmful. But a little bit of woo, I guess, in other people's lives, as long as you as a tertiary individual recognize that it's light woo, I think can sometimes do a bit of good.
I like that you said that too, Erica, because something that I think people fail to recognize is the values that we hold when it comes to truth is not going to be the same with everybody else that we talk to. There are some people out there who don't actually care if something is true or not. They just care if it makes them feel good.
Right.
And that we may disagree with that, but like that's how they operate. And unless they operate differently, they may not care what you have to say. And that's just kind of a hard fact of life. Yeah. And that's probably why you see some certain kinds of personalities that tend to go the route of the meditation and stuff like that. Like, obviously, we know that there are studies that have demonstrated some great things that meditation does, But we also know that there are definitely some claims out there that meditation does not do, like, healing cancer and stuff like that. Like, it's just, so yeah, like if it's a friend, get to know them, get to know what they have to say about their beliefs, and, gently challenge it, only in the sense of like, I think about it like this, right? Try to convince yourself. What questions would you want to ask if you wanted to know if that belief was true or not? And, being honest with that as you can.
Treat epistemology approach.
Sure. Like if your friend came to me and said, well, I read this study one time and it said this, and I was like, oh, that's cool. How did you know about the reliability of the study? Where did the study come from? Do you know much about the organization that published it? I mean, obviously, if you ask these questions on the spot, they're probably not going to be able to know, right? But like, you can at least look at that together and maybe make a conversation out of it. Because to me, I'd be like, that's really interesting. I want to know more about if that's true or not, And so maybe framing it that way makes it a little less combative, makes it a little less seem like you're trying to just shut people down, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I know one time somebody, I was kind of surprised they started talking about psychic something. It's like, so I suddenly felt like, what are they talking about? So I started questioning them, and then it turns out they weren't talking about like psychic seeing. They were talking about like just a kind of a general like psyche of the. Anyway, I don't know, it was something very vague and diffuse. It wasn't an actual like claim of a psychic phenomenon.
Yeah, I've heard incredible things about meditation with regard to just general mindfulness and living in the present. So just being aware of where you are and what you're doing, because I think we do tend to kind of get stuck in this almost speed up mode, this fast forward, just because our modern lives are so complicated. So I wonder if this sort of psyche thing, right, had anything to do with mindfulness. I mean, I think you cross into the woo when it gets a bit out of body, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, so for example, so in the insight meditation groups, which are again part of the Theravada tradition of Buddhism, which actually, so it's very different than the I forget that other the Buddhists who were on a couple of weeks ago.
Yes,
it's a very different tradition. But the groups that you attend here, like in America, they're insight meditation. They have teachers who have been trained by Buddhist monks. They're in the lineage of the Buddhism, but it's very non-woo in terms of the teachings. At least, so I was actually very surprised when our main teacher, she was talking about, she actually did some exploration of past lives. I was very surprised because I've been listening to her for years, and it was almost all non-woo for so many years. So, I'm not going to challenge her on that, because I mean, belief in reincarnation is part of the Buddhist tradition, right? So I'm not going to like challenge. It's like I'm not going to go into a church and start challenging people on their beliefs there in the church, right?
Sure. Yeah, you're kind of you be in the wrong environment for that, right? Like it's probably going to be received pretty hostile. Like if somebody came to the ACA and started proselytizing to us, it's like, we're not really about that, But you can call our shows, you know what I mean? So
can I give you a great little anecdote about
go for
about that? Yeah,
Please do.
So I heard this story about there was this monastery in Thailand, and they had someone who came. She was a Westerner, and she was going through learning meditation, and she had gone back home, and then she became a born again Christian, and she came back to the monastery and started trying to convert everyone, right? And so all the monks went to complain to the head of the monastery, complaining about her. And what the head of the monastery told them was, well, maybe she's right. Basically, he used it as kind of a teaching lesson to not hold fixed views.
Yeah, I think that that's, first of all, the patience of that. I guess that's why they're monks, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if my reaction would have been the same way, but then again, I'm also not like a Buddhist master, so. But yeah, I think
it might be apocryphal too. I don't know, but
yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like having respect for other humans. I mean, that's the goal, right? I mean, as humanists, we really do want the best for everyone, and so I think there's a time and a place, and like kind of like what you guys were saying, like you wouldn't go into a church and proselytize for atheism or agnostic atheism, whatever. So, but street epistemology is kind of a different game, right? So instead of, I mean, for instance, if you ran into this teacher, right, this who's talking about past lives, maybe if you ran into them at a bar or something, then that would be like, okay, well, let's explore that. Let's dig a little bit deeper. Why do you feel that way? Rather than in class. And it would be very interesting. I think that conversation would be really neat.
Yeah. And like, I think if people are open to it, you know, like you'd be surprised. There's some people that are more open to these kinds of conversations than you might think. Like some people, when they say, like, I find that if I ever tell people I'm an atheist, suddenly they shut down sometimes, or they don't want to talk about it. And that's kind of weird, because it's like I want to talk about that kind of stuff more than anybody. But I guess they feel like if they start talking about their church or their Christianity, they'd be like, oh, sorry, I don't mean to offend you. Like somebody actually said that to me one time when they're talking about that. It's just like, you have your own beliefs. Like, just because, you know, I don't share those beliefs doesn't mean you can't talk about them. So people in this country are kind of weird about talking about those kinds of things. I think it's a cultural thing. I think especially in Texas too, I find here it's like there's a lot of people that are just kind of like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing, and we'll just kind of keep in our separate boxes. Now, obviously there's exceptions to the rule, but like, I don't know. I wish people were more open with this kinds of stuff. I think we learn more things from people. But Jeff, to answer your questions and in final, you know, a final conclusion, I guess, as long as the group you're a part of doesn't feel like a cult and you feel like you're getting something out of it and the other people are getting something out of it, maybe it's good to just let bygones be bygones. But if something explicit out there is like, hey, that's demonstrably not true, maybe it's good to challenge that. But ultimately, that's going to be up to you. So hopefully we gave you some context, and let me know how it goes, man.
All
Put the feelers out, Jeff.
Yeah, keep on keeping on here and